Hi, this video is an introduction to the Instrument Pilot Rating. I'll cover what an instrument rating is, the reasons why you should become an instrument-rated pilot, and the requirements for getting rated, including an overview of the knowledge and skills acquired in training for the rating. So what is an instrument rating anyway? It's an addition to your private or commercial license that allows you to fly in weather conditions lower than those required for Visual Flight Rules, VFR. You can get it for airplanes, helicopters, and powered lift aircraft. Now, why should you get an instrument rating? Imagine a nice clear day. You may see all the way up to the horizon. In these conditions, you can easily use the outside visual references to safely control the aircraft. This is flight in visual meteorological conditions, VMC. But when you're flying in low visibility, there's a problem. You may not be able to see very well out the windows. Without the visual cues, it's impossible to safely control the aircraft by just looking outside. Our natural sensory mechanisms, such as the vestibular system in our ears, that have evolved to work on the ground, are very unreliable in flight. Our body can't detect motion directly. It can only feel acceleration, which is the changes in velocity. Without the visual references to the outside world, we could be established in a rapid descent toward the ground, while our senses fooling us to believe that we're in a straight and level flight. So what should you do instead of looking out the window? The solution is that in these conditions, you must rely on the aircraft flight instruments and not on your senses. This is why the FAA forbids pilots without the instrument rating to intentionally fly as PIC in instrument meteorological conditions, IMC. An instrument rating can also help you become a more knowledgeable and safer pilot. Unintentional visual flight into instrument conditions is the leading cause of weather-related aircraft accidents. By learning to fly without external visual cues, you'll be more prepared to deal with unpredicted weather. As an instrument-rated pilot, you'll have the option to fly when VFR pilots can't even take off. So keep in mind that with great power comes great responsibility and greater risks. And this requires careful go-no-go decision-making before each flight, especially when dealing with bad weather. This is why, during your instrument training, you'll dive deep into learning more about aeronautical decision-making, ADM. Research conducted by Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University showed that instrument-rated pilots performed better on weather knowledge and skills than non-instrument-rated pilots. Another reason to get an instrument rating is that it's required for most pilot jobs. So if your goal is to become a professional pilot, an instrument rating is almost always a must-have. The above was an explanation of why you should be instrument trained. But now, let's see when an instrument rating is absolutely required by the regulations. You'll need an instrument rating to act as a pilot in command under IFR or weather conditions lower than those required for VFR. Commercial pilots need an instrument rating to carry passengers for hire on flights over 50 nautical miles or at night. You'll need an instrument rating to operate in Class Alpha airspace. In the US, that's the airspace between 18 and 60,000 feet. You'll need an instrument rating before you can become a flight instructor with instrument, airplane, or powered lift ratings. You'll also need an instrument rating before you can take the ATP Airline Transferred Pilot Checkride. You'll need an instrument rating to fly under special VFR between sunset and sunrise. So how do you become instrument rated? FAR 61.65 lists the requirements for the instrument rating. You must have at least a private pilot license or be applying for one at the same time. The certificate must have an airplane, a helicopter, or a powered lift rating as appropriate to the instrument rating that you seek. You must be able to read, speak, write, and understand the English language. You need to receive and log ground training from your instructor or complete a home study course on the aeronautical knowledge areas described in the regulations. You must record the flight training received from your flight instructor in the areas of operations required for the instrument checkride. You'll also need 3 endorsements in your logbook from your instructor. The first, that you're ready for the aeronautical knowledge test. The second, that you're prepared for the practical test. And the third, that you meet the prerequisites for the practical test within the last 2 calendar months prior to the test. Finally, you'll have to successfully complete a written exam and a practical test, also known as a checkride. The standards for passing the test are listed in the Instrument Airman Certification Standards, ACS. You should download a copy of the ACS and become familiar with the passing standards for your checkride. Next, let's see what knowledge and skills are covered during instrument training. A deep dive into aviation weather, including weather information, hazards, and weather information products and sources. Aeromedical factors. Understanding the flight instruments. Getting to know how they work. And what to do when they fail. You'll learn about instrument approaches, procedures that let you transition from instrument conditions to a point where you can safely land the airplane visually, or in some cases all the way down to the runway in instrument conditions. You'll learn about flight by reference to instruments with full and partial panels. You'll also learn about procedure turns, holding patterns, departure procedures, arrival procedures, and much more. This was an introduction to the instrument rating. In this video, you learned what an instrument rating is, the reasons why you need it as a pilot, the requirements for the rating, and the skills and knowledge you'll gain in training for the rating. My plan with these videos is to help you reach your flight training goals using clear explanations of aviation theory. Please leave your questions below in the comments and hit the notification icon so you don't miss any new videos when they come out. Until then, fly safe and see you next time.